Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. I am back with the final stage of the Terminator, the T-800. This is part 3 where I complete this build, and I am super excited about that. First off, I would like to thank Agora Models for this review sample. It's been fantastic to build, and it really saddens me that this is actually my last build with Agora Models. So, if you haven't done so already, head over to Agora Models and subscribe to the T-800. It's fantastic, and you'll see that at the end of this video. Anyway, part 3 is where I finish assembling the base. I mount the Terminator to the base, and we do an overall operational check with the lights and the sounds and such. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Phased plasma rifle in a 40-watt range. Uzi 9mm. I'll be back.
Welcome back to Pack 12 of Build the T-800, the Terminator, in half scale. Building the cyborg here from the Terminator movie. And this is available from Agora Models. If you haven't done so already, head over to Agora Models and get this for yourself. So this is my final video for this series, and this will be part 3 of Pack 12, where I will be completing stages 117, 118, 119, and 120. So let's look at all the parts as they arrive when you receive them. Here's the parts for stage 117. I'll take these out. We'll get a closer look at them here in a second. The parts for stage 118, the parts for 119, and the parts for stage 120. Let's get started on stage 117. And here's the parts for stage 117. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. Here's part of the base with the felt material on it, once again. The battery compartment. And the cover for that, made of plastic. The 4 metal brackets for mounting the Terminator onto. Let's get started. First thing to do is load up the battery compartment with the batteries. Always put the negative up against the spring. There you go. That's the 4 C-cell batteries. Then we bring over this cover plate, and they want you to put it in like this at an angle, and then make sure it grabs on there we go, like that. It snaps in. There's like a little hook thing there that snaps in on that. And this is ready to go into the base. Let me bring the base over. And here's the base, and here we have that cutout opening for the battery compartment. Go ahead and feed that in to the base, just like that. Go ahead and take our wires here, and we'll undo them, and we're going to plug this into the circuit board. It's going to plug in right there. Perfect. Now I want to go ahead and tape this down. I can use the existing tape that I already have in here. And leave some slack for it. That's good there. I'm going to go ahead and turn this around a little bit. And you can see here now, here's my battery compartment, the circuit board that we just worked with. We'll bring over this base support, and that's going to go down on top, just like that. 4 PB 3x6 millimeter screws go into this. And the last one. Perfect. Here's the base installed. All 4 screws are in. Now let me get the metal plate we received in stage 116. And here's that metal plate. We're going to be putting some brackets right here in this area. And they'll essentially be going down just like that on both sides. 3x6 millimeter screws, the PM screws, and 3M nuts go on the other side. Once again, leaving them loose a little bit, just like that. I'll put the others in and I'll be right back. And there they are, all installed, and they are still loose. They tell you to specifically leave them loose. They're not tightened down whatsoever. And that's all I do for stage 117. Fantastic. We got everything installed here. Battery compartments hooked up, and got this heavy duty bracket built up. Let's head over and do stage 118. Let's look at stage 118, assembling the lower half of the stand and connect it to the base. Here's all the parts we received, and here's those parts list. Going to hook up those long rods to that heavy-duty base. Put some real long screws into this, the 3x35 millimeter screws, 4 of them. Tighten those down. Then I believe we'll go ahead and tighten down everything else, all the screws. I'm going to put some Loctite on those screws and nuts, so that way they will basically glue shut and not back out and we'll lose anything. But we need to fully tighten all the nuts here. After everything is all tightened up, we'll slide these rods through the base from underneath. We'll position that heavy-duty base in the middle there. We may have to take one of the mounting points on the bottom out of the way, but it looks like it should fit with no problems. And then we'll install the other felt base on the last corner. Secure everything down there. We'll put these pads on the 4 corners. Go to the top of the rods there, and we'll put in some quick disconnect pins. They go down into the rods, and that will complete the stage. Let me get the parts and I will be right back. Here's the screws we received. Here's those real long ones I talked about, and some more mounting screws. Another felt base. The metal rod for supporting the Terminator. Quick release pins, and those 4 pads. We've got to pull those off. They have a self-backing tape on the back. Let's get started. Here's a rod, and we're going to line up those holes that are on the rod with the holes that are on those tabs, those metal tabs. We'll be putting in those long screws. Here's that long screw, so we'll insert that into just like that. Feed it through. And first one's in. Put the nut on it. And you can see that there. Just put the nut on it. we'll get them all started and then tighten everything after they're all started. I'm going to use the blue Loctite just to put a little bit on the threads here. Gonna hold the nut with some pliers and screw it down. There's one. That's what they look like. I'll go ahead and do the same thing to the nuts on this side. I'll put some Loctite on them and I'll tighten them down. I'll be right back. And everything is tightened down on these. All the nuts. Looks great. Loctite on them so they shouldn't back away later on. Let's move on to the next step. Next is to fit these rods through the base. Just like that. Got the base installed where it needs to be. Now I'm putting the felt bottom back on that I took off. BP 2x6mm screws goes into this. We'll put 4 in. And all the screws are in for the base. Now we got to put this felt cover on the left side. And all the covers are on. You can see that. Next I have to put these pads on. And they just peel off. Peel the backing away. And they're going to go in the corners. And put it right over to where that screw is. All 4 corners are in. Now that we have this mounted to the base, I'm going to go ahead and put these quick release fasteners in. We simply need to bend this and slide it into the rod. Just like that. And feed it through. You can take your screwdriver and do that. Just like that. Do the other side. And feed it down with the screwdriver. Perfect. And that's how that looks there. Next step. And there you have it. Stage 118 is complete. We have the rods in place. Looks fantastic. Now let's go ahead and do stage 119. Let's look at stage 119. We're going to attach the Terminator T-800 to the stand. These are the parts for that. Here's a listing of those parts. Going to attach that top bracket that supports the Terminator onto the top of that rod there. Going to slide that down on the other rods that are on the stand itself, and you can see that. I'm going to lay the chain in there and probably go ahead and install those springs that I hadn't installed. I'll do that next also. Going to attach some mount brackets on the back of the Terminator, and that's these right here. These thumb screws go in place, and voila, he should be on the stand just like that. Let me get the parts and I will be right back. Here's that bracket, the other part of the bracket for mounting the Terminator. The mounting bracket for that made of metal. The thumb screws, very cool there, made of metal. The chain, very lightweight aluminum, but that's very cool there. All rusty looking, nice. Screws and spacers and some M3 nuts. Let's get started. Okay, so with this bracket, my quick release tabs are actually located on the back side of the base of what would be the back side. So I'm going to flip it over. Notice there's no holes here, but I need to mount the bracket here that supports him on top. Okay, and that's going to go on this side of the bracket where there's no holes. So get a close-up view of that and show you what the process. So you can see that my holes are on this side. I'm going to put my very long screw, I'll do the middle one first, from this side. Flip this over. I'm going to put a spacer in there, just like that, and put the bracket on it. Okay, and then the nut will go on it. I'm going to leave it loose for now, but just as I did before, I'm going to put Loctite on that before I cinch it down and lock everything in place. So I'll do the same thing with the other two. Before I tighten these down, I'm going to put the Loctite in there. And that's good there, all tight. Put this on the stand here. Slide that down. And it's on. That's how that looks there. Looks great on the stand. Next, I'm going to glue in those springs that I didn't put in before. I'm going to use my Bare Bond super glue. It's a gel type. Just like that. And I got two more to put in, one right here and one in the back. And then next, just kind of lay the chain down in here, just like that. And I'll glue them in place pretty much the same way. There you have it. Then we'll mount him to the base. I'll be right back. And Terminator is mounted now on the bracket, and you want to insert those thumb screws all the way down so you can see he is now fully mounted. All the way down. Very nice. Let's look at the final stage for the T-800, and that's stage 120. Assemble the remote control and learn how to use the control to your model. Here's all the parts I received. And here's a listing of those parts. We start assembling the front face and the button controls. Moving on with more controls for the buttons. And here's a breakdown of what those buttons are and what they mean. Pretty cool that we still get to assemble this remote control. I really like this part. And put together the battery compartment for the remote control. It's going to take 2 AAA batteries. Put the back cover on. Install the batteries, and the remote control is complete. Let's look at the back cover of the magazine. And operating your remote. Tells us what we have to do to the base and to the head. And this is what the buttons do, what they control. Hasta la vista, baby. I'll take the Uzi 9mm. Here's the parts. I'll take these out, we'll get a better look. Here's some of the parts. This is the circuit board. Has all the micro switches on this side. And the chip, controlling chip. Very nice there. The remote control face, made of plastic. Love the graphics on that. Very cool. The back of the remote control, made of plastic. Access to the AAA batteries. The cover for the batteries. Screws. And here's all the buttons. And clear lenses for the lights. Very cool there. Made of plastic, of course. And of course, need to cut these off. Bring over the cover. And of course, these clear parts will get inserted on the back side here. Very fancy. And that's what they look like inserted. And you really can't see anything on that side. They say to add a little bit of glue to these, and that's what I'll do. I'll get a little bit of super glue and I'll add some super glue to those. And here we go. And I'll let those dry a little bit. Next, I need to identify the frames here. And this is the lighted eyes button here. Searchlight's blue, searchlight's red. And these are the sound buttons. Searchlights buttons again. Left and right eyes. Looks like the power button there. Sound button. And up and down for the jaw. I'm going to go ahead and cut these off. I'll be right back. Now to install the individual buttons, I've taken all the buttons off the sprue and I've cleaned up the extra sprue nubs that were on there with a sanding stick like this. So they're all ready to be installed. I'll be installing all the buttons next. So in order to do that, you can see here what that looks like. So the blue buttons go on this side. And the red buttons go on the other. Then we put the speaker buttons in. Perfect there. the up button. The up button goes on this side. And down button on this side. This button here goes right there. This side. Then the power button has a notch. It's going to line up with the notch on top. And all the buttons are in. Now I'll bring over the circuit board. Go ahead and lay the circuit board down on top. That's how that looks there. A nut in here, an M2 nut. Just going to put a little super glue in there to hold that nut in place. Drop that nut in place, just like that, and we'll let that dry. The nut's dry there. Now we'll hook up the circuit board to the battery compartment, and it simply goes on just like that. That's in. Turn this over and set that down on top. Now I put in 4 PB 2x4 screws. That's done there, and that's what that looks like. Make sure all the buttons work. Good. All right, so next go ahead and put the batteries in and make sure the negative goes against the spring. It's good there. And lastly, put the cover on. PM 2x6 screw goes into this. That's a little bit of a longer screw. And that's good there. And it lights up. Very good. Very nice. Lights up very nicely. Turn it off. And that completes the remote. The next thing I'll have to do is check this out against the Terminator. So stay tuned for that. And that completes stage 120. This was the final stage for the T-800. Let's give this an operational check against the Terminator. So I'll be right back. And you can see here, I have them displayed in my dining room. And that's what he looks like on the stand. Going to use the remote control that I built for this, and we'll power him up. Remove the skull, turn on the power switch, and you should see a little flicker of the lights when you do that. And go ahead and turn on the lights. Remote control is turned on now, and we'll turn on the lights. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we can take and adjust these lights a little bit here. That looks good there. And I really, really like how he looks with the lights. He's cool. And my dogs are very curious about what I am doing. Hi guys. They're very curious. Get down. Get down. All right. So I did press and hold the power button on. In the back of the Terminator's head is the battery box. I turned that on. And there's a little push button back there. You have to press and hold for a few seconds. And then his head powers up. Let's go ahead and move his eyes. And you can see his eyes move. Very cool there. Straighten him out. Let's do his jaw. Jaw opens and closes. Very cool there. Now the sound. Very good. The theme for Terminator. Of course, my dogs are getting super excited. You guys excited? And the last one. And there you go. He is fully functional and everything works just as advertised. I will be right back. And there you go. I am super excited to be finally done with the T-800, the Terminator by Agora Models. It's been a fantastic journey these past 3 years, considering I had to move twice for my job and I had to, well, I retired and I'm able to finish this up right before Halloween. My wife actually let me put this in our dining room for the Halloween theme, and it's kind of fitting. It's a wonderful display, don't you think? It's huge. Look at that thing. Anyway, I would like to thank Agora Models for sending me this build sample. It's a fantastic kit, and I really appreciate and I thank you very much, Agora, for sending me this. This will be my last build from Agora, and it kind of makes me sad. Anyway, thank you all who subscribed to my channel and has followed this build these past 3 years. If you have any questions about this build, any question whatsoever, anytime during the build, just put a comment in the description below. Comment down below. Let me know what your questions are about this. I do highly recommend this though. It's very impressive to have this displayed in your own home when you get it done. So without further ado, I'd like to say goodbye and happy modeling, everybody.